Nintendo 69 minus half a dime. I could go on with this rhyme, but it would take too much time, lamenting that this wasn't 69. The N64, an excellent game system with a lot of high quality titles, though not a whole lot of games period for the system, just a little under 400 were released over its entire production cycle across all regions, but it's a fantastic multiplayer system due to having 4 hardwired controller ports and not requiring any multi-taps or whatever. Unlike Nintendo's previous 2 home consoles, which were just an original release and a redesign, the Nintendo 64 mostly stayed shaped throughout its entire run, though there were many variants apart from its default charcoal gray. This one in particular is Watermelon Red, which is part of its Fantastic series. The big reason why I got it is because I was able to get it complete in box many years ago, and unfortunately I won't be showing that box because it's a bit too large to show from this camera angle, but that doesn't really matter since the main focus of this video is the games I have to play on this thing. Speaking of that, my Nintendo 64 collection consists of 18 games. Let's not delay this any farther, let's get them on camera now. Mario Party 3. I've only played a few Mario Party games in the entire series, but this was the first one I ever got to own for myself. The first 2 games are a concern, but my main problem has been, since it is Mario, it's kind of an excuse to put it way over market, and that's the big reason why I haven't been able to actually get the first 2 games, especially complete. Even still, most of 3's minigames are pretty enjoyable, and if I remember it right, not only is it the first game in the series to feature Daisy and Waluigi, it's also the first to try to make some kind of storyline up with the Millennium Stars story mode. Paper Mario. The concept of Mario and literally everybody else being flat paper characters was quite a novelty, especially for a system that was mostly a 3D machine. I have completed this game from start to finish, and it was one of the first games I remember playing on the N64, just kind of goofing off and seeing what the world was like. But I never gave it a proper run through until many years later, and safe to say, it was actually enjoyable. However, this game is a bit pricey, and certainly the Mario game I find the least on the Nintendo 64. Cartridges run about $70, and completes run around $300 at times. Pokemon Stadium 2. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. I'm not exactly much of a Pokemon person, and it's proven by the fact that this is one of only 2 games in the whole series that I have in my entire collection. The main reason I've got this game, however, was because I used to play the first Pokemon Stadium with a friend a bunch. Well, specifically the minigames, since we thought those were more fun than the game itself. But we saw Stadium 2 once, got to play it once, and we never saw the cartridge again. So it was kind of weird, and when I had the opportunity to get Stadium 2 for a decent price, I took advantage of it, wondering what I missed. Sure enough, the game is a serious update to the first Pokemon Stadium, featuring the second generation Pokemon and a bunch of new content. Game's alright, though the gold front and silver back designation for this cartridge is pretty cool. Kirby 64. I had played a few Kirby games before this one, but this was the first game in the main platformer series I got to play. I would complete it 100% and did enjoy my run through it, though it did feel kind of weird that I used the D-pad to control Kirby rather than the control stick like, well, pretty much every other N64 game. Still, it was a fun and fairly easy game, especially as my first Kirby platformer. It's a game I am considering playing for the channel as my first N64 game I play for it. The only other game I'd consider would be Paper Mario, but time will tell when I do it. Conker's Bad Fur Day. This raunchous game really needs no explanation. It is perhaps the most infamous game on the Nintendo 64 for every single reason that got coded in its board. Tellingly, it's one of only a few games in my whole collection that has an M rating from the ESRB. In due part to its infamy, late release, and pretty low sales figures, this game is pretty expensive on the N64, with the cartridge being regularly over $100 and completes pushing around $300. I would complete this game to 100%, but not without the help of a Prima guide I would find a month after getting this copy. And here is the Prima strategy guide, which has, certainly seen better days. Got a whole lot of folding pretty much everywhere on this front. The spine is definitely rough, with some damage right there. And the back page is pretty rough as well. The pages themselves are mostly alright, but it was a guide for this game, and I certainly used it to get the game to 100% completion. And I don't mind that at all. Transformers Beast Wars Transmetals. This game is a good example of a good concept but bad execution. The Transformers Beast Wars series, in this case it's a 3D fighter where you can transform into 3 different forms, but the way it actually is executed makes for a pretty frustrating fighting game overall. So it's not really a great game, but it is passable if you want something interesting. Despite the serious flaws, the game fetches a pretty penny, with cartridges going around $125 as of recording time. Bomberman 64. This game is cool. It's one of my personal favorite games on the N64, and without a doubt my favorite Bomberman game. The game's storyline is pretty decent for a Bomberman game, but its multiplayer is what hits the spot, especially with the computers being as chaotic as can be on high difficulty, which is the way I play it. I have completed this game, though it does take a lot of patience and attempts to fully get the job done. Still, it is a game I'll throw in once in a while and play some multiplayer because it's always entertaining to me. Bomberman Hero. Unlike 64, Hero only features a single-player campaign, and that's a bit of a disappointment. Still, it is a pretty entertaining game that I have completed, but like 64, it does take a lot of patience and attempts to get it all done. Bomberman 64, The Second Attack. I definitely like the first game more, but this is a pretty good game in its own right, though there are some differences to it that make it seem a little weird. There is no live system, you basically have one solid health bar, and if you lose everything then it's game over. In addition, your bomb blasts aren't 3D, it's actually in a cross shape, like the original Bomberman games. Of course, the game's more well known for being one of the most expensive games on the system, and it's been that way for a while. For the past couple years, it's easily been over $200 per cartridge, and I've got a fairly clean copy that I'm real happy to have. It is a good game, but for how much it is, I'd rather stick to the first game. Stunt Racer 64. This game has a rather strange market track record. Before 2016, this game was so obscure that its market was very unstable. You could find the cartridge for $20, you could find it for $100. Fortunately, I got mine in the $20 range. After 2016, it actually became a little more well-known. It started pushing into the $150 range. And at one point, this game was the most expensive game in my collection, with its absolute max commanding $500 for just the cartridge. As of this recording, it's dropped significantly to about $300, but that's still pretty high for this game. There is a little bit of an excuse for this one. This is one of those games that was exclusive to Blockbuster Video and absolutely nowhere else, much like Super Bowling and Clay Fighter Sculptor's Cut. This copy in particular doesn't have any of the Blockbuster stickers and actually looks somewhat decent. Most of the ones you'll find either have the Blockbuster sticker just all over it, or label damage so bad it's barely recognizable. As for what the game's like, it's kind of like a Hot Wheels game, as the cars in-game kind of resemble Hot Wheels die-cast cars. Quite frankly, they could present themselves as such. And doing tricks in the game is very common. It's a really neat game, but it is a shame that it was only a rental exclusive, so not many copies got produced, and that's why the game commands as much as it does now. Mario Kart 64. When I was originally recording the segments for this video, I had just the cartridge and manual and was going to be the lead-off game for the N64. However, on January 24th, I had the opportunity to get the game complete, and took it. This box is alright, there is a little damage on Mario's cap and a little above that, but other than that, all the sides are fine, minus the bottom being a little bloated. But other than that, looks pretty good. Not the best looking box, but certainly serviceable. Here's a look inside featuring the instruction manual, which was actually the manual I had with my copy, as the copy that was in this box was complete trash. A whole lot of folds on the front page like my Conker strategy guide, and overall looked pretty bad. This one isn't the best, but certainly a heck of a lot better than the one I saw, so I got the better manual in the end. Then you have the Nintendo Power insert, which is damaged, but these things are pretty common and not that big a concern for me as a result. Something more interesting is the Mario Kart 64 operation card, which is basically a quick reference guide to the game. If I open it here, it shows you what the items are in each of the item boxes and what they do. And on the outside, you've got, well, how to control the carts. Certainly pretty interesting. And of course, you've got the cartridge, which is in pretty good shape. Only some light scratching on the label and not much else. This was actually my first Mario Kart game and one of the first N64 games I played. So it does have a lot of sentimentality to me. And I'm glad I was able to finally get the whole thing complete. Star Fox 64. Ah, yes, the big box copy. Unfortunately, not one that's really screwed up. Like, the only real damage is just this severe case of sideware right there. Other than that, all the sides look fantastic without any crushing whatsoever, though you can see some spots here and there and the obvious corner wear, but still really good for a big box. Then again, having this rigid plastic case probably helps. Anyway, here's a look inside featuring the instruction manual, which is in decent shape, just some marks on the spine and nothing else serious. the Nintendo Power insert, and yes, this does have a rumble pack, a spare one, but still one to fit in. A very clean copy without any issues. The springs are still good. I don't really use them, unfortunately, but hey, at least I got them. And of course the cartridge, which is in great shape. Only some light scratches on both labels, but otherwise an excellent looking copy. The game itself is pretty widespread. The cartridge is only about 20 bucks, but finding a decent complete copy like this is a little tough to find, and they're generally about $100, so it's not too outrageous. It's just hard to find one that actually looks pretty good. Rayman 2. A pretty decent platformer that I mainly got because it was a fairly cheap game for a fully complete in box set. As you can see, the front is foil, but there's a lot of damage to it, the bottoms most especially. You can see Rayman kind of scratched up, and the Rayman logo is a bit scratched up if you notice it. Beyond that, the rest of the box looks pretty good for what it is. It's just that front that's the issue because they stuck to foil instead of standard. Here's a look inside featuring the green cartridge, which is a little unusual, but welcome. As you can see, it is a really clean copy without any faults whatsoever, and that's always pretty nice. Inside here is the instruction manual, which is also excellent. Only some wear on the corners and not on the spine, which is always good. The precautions booklet, which is with every release. The registration card, which is not a common sight, and for some reason not one but two flyers for the Rayman animated series, which unfortunately only got through 4 episodes and that was it. Kind of a shame really, but it is what it is. Donkey Kong 64. This is one of the N64's more popular games, so I don't think it really needs much explanation. This box is decent for what it is, and I say decent because this back side here, there's some serious damage on the barcode and a bit of crushing just all across the board on here, which prevents it from looking great, but still decent otherwise. Here's a look inside featuring the banana yellow cartridge, as they call it, which is perfect minus one flaw, a tiny little scratch right there on the label. Other than that, looks absolutely perfect. Here is the manual, which is in great shape. The front looks good, but the back page, not so much. You can see a bunch of folding and a little bit of fading if you look close enough. The spine, however, doesn't really have much wear either, so it's really just the back page that's flawed. Precautions booklet, but that's expected. The expansion pack instruction booklet, because this is the expansion pack thing, and here it is. This is actually a spare expansion pack because I bought my Watermelon Red N64 with one already. And the Nintendo Power insert featuring the player's guide. Pretty good set overall, not going to lie. Indiana Jones and the Infernal Machine. This is my only N64 game that's just the game in the box, sadly, but it's a bit justified considering this box and its manual are really tough to find. Probably not surprising considering this was a former Blockbuster exclusive, though there are claims that it did get a retail release, so take that with a grain of salt. Regardless of that, this box is a former rental box and is actually in decent shape considering what it is. The top has some crushing, but the other sides are all pretty good, minus a little bit of wear right there. The only notable damage is actually on the back as somebody tampered with the Blockbuster rental sticker. Other than that, a little bit of crushing, but otherwise looks pretty decent. And here is the game cartridge, which is actually my second copy of the game. The first one that came with the box had that Blockbuster shield wrapped all around the top and sides. Later, I would find this copy and ship out the other one. I see the game cartridge by itself pretty infrequently, and it commands around $75 to $80 as of recording time. The box and manual, on the other hand, are fairly rare, and a complete set will run you about $300, with the box and manual being $100 each. The Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time. Does this game really need an explanation? Probably not, although the differences between Collector's Edition and the standard release, gold cartridge and game changes excluded, is that this front cover is literally just a sticker. Nothing else. You can kind of notice it if you look around the edges. Beyond that, this box is a bit worn, with the worst damage coming right on this bottom. Yikes. The rest of the sides actually do look pretty good, however, minus some scratching and some usual wear, and of course a couple nicks here and there, but otherwise it looks pretty decent. Here's a look inside featuring the amazing gold cartridge, although mine's a little scuffed. As you can see with the focus, the bottom is a bit scratched up, but otherwise it looks pretty good. Alongside that is the manual, which is a bit worn as well. You can see some spots here and there. Manual's pretty rough, and there is some fading on this back page. Still, everything's intact, which is good. Precautions booklet and the Nintendo Power insert. A complete copy of this game as of recording time fetches at least $275, more than likely $300, and the cartridge is about $75 to $80. The Legend of Zelda Majora's Mask. Much like Ocarina of Time, this game really doesn't need an introduction or explanation, though this box does look better than my copy of Ocarina. The only real damage, apart from the standard corner wear and some little side wear, is this little cut on this top side. Other than that, the rest of it actually looks really good, minus a little bit of bloating on the side that you open it from, and the back side looks pretty good too. Here's a look inside, featuring the almighty Collector's Edition cartridge, which has this awesome holograph. Not the best looking holograph, but still pretty serviceable. Then you've got the instruction manual, which is sadly rougher than it looks. That front cover is pretty wavy, but the back side, you can see a little damage, and the inside, some of the pages are damaged on the outside edges, so not the prettiest looking one, unfortunately. Then you've got the precautions booklet as per usual, the Nintendo Power insert, and finally this rather interesting card, which is a correction card because first print instruction manuals have an error on the third page. Just in case you're curious to see what it looks like as a first print manual, it says up to 4 players can play this game, which is definitely not correct. It also mentions the Rumble Pack, which I don't think was mentioned in corrected manuals. Also, you can see just kind of the damage on my thumb right there. That's what I was talking about when it comes to pages being damaged on the outside edges. All in all, a pretty solid complete copy. Cartridges are generally running around $60 as of this recording time, and completes are running about $175 to $200. But wait, there's more! I've also got the Primus Strategy Guide. Sorry, Nintendo Power, I just found this one first. This one's condition is pretty normal to me. There is some damage on the spine right here, and the pages have had their use. Just a standard worn guide, although I did use this guide to complete the game, so there's always a plus there. Ogre Battle 64. This game is awesome. Much like my copy of the game, which, quite frankly, I do get a bit nervous whenever this is not inside a plastic protector, but this is not a case where it should stay in it. This copy is a beauty. There's only 2 real faults of it. The first one's right there with that corner. You can see a little fading. And the other side is, well, the only real serious corner damage is that bottom left corner. Other than that, it looks exceptional. Here's a look inside, featuring the only serious blemish of an otherwise excellent looking copy, and that is the manual, which is a former rental manual. Yeah, it stings, but at least it's intact. There's also the precautions booklet, Nintendo Power insert. Then you've got the cartridge, which is exceptional. Apart from a few light scratches on the top label, it looks really good. Even the connectors are still gray. Normally they'd be oxidized to brown, which shows how well this has been taken care of. And I've certainly done my best to make sure it stays taken care of. Apart from this manual being a former rental, this is an otherwise fantastic copy. As of recording time, the cartridge usually runs around $100 and completes about $300. This alone is pretty fantastic, but I've also got the Prima Guide. Here is the Prima Guide, which doesn't look as good as my game copy, but this is one of those guides where finding it in any condition is quite an accomplishment. There is some spine damage, especially on the bottom and a little on the top, and this guide has definitely seen better days. I use this thing all the way from start to finish, but it only covers one path out of the many, many possible paths the game actually has to offer. So it does cover a lot of the hidden stuff, but only one path. The rest is the rest. Not bad for a guide, however. And that's all I've got to say in show. If you liked what you saw, feel free to drop a like. If you're interested in seeing how I update the collection, hit that subscribe button. But until then, I want to thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.